Hi everyone. Welcome to the Stretch and Strengthen exercise class. Today is Thursday, February the 2nd, and this is our 5th class of the series of 8, so 5 out of 8 today. So the Stretch and Strengthen exercise class is our low impact and low intensity exercise class. There'll be lots of opportunity for breaks during the class if you need. And the class starts in a seated position, and we move to a standing position, and then back to a seated position again for the end of the class. This class is recorded just like our other classes in the series. And the recording will be live on our Parkinson Society BC YouTube channel about a week after the recording. So by this time next week, our class recording should be uploaded. And the previous class recordings have already gone onto the YouTube channel. And so if you're new to our class today, or if you want to revisit any of the exercises we did in the previous weeks, you're welcome to do so on the YouTube channel. And what I'll do here is I will just type my email in the chat box. If anyone needs a direct link to the YouTube channel, you can go ahead and email me and I can send that over to you. So this is our Stretch and Strengthen class. Like I mentioned, it's our low intensity and low impact exercise class. So this is a really great way to start an exercise routine if you're new to exercise, or you're just getting back into exercise. So hopefully it's a nice, gentle class for you to do. I think I see most people already in the room. I don't think there's anyone stuck out in the waiting room. If you are new to our class today, welcome. And don't worry about missing the previous classes. You can just follow along to the best of your abilities. And if there's anything you're not sure about, you're welcome to ask me on the via the chat box, which hopefully if you jiggle your mouse around, you'll see a little banner come up at the bottom of the screen. And you'll see a chat icon. It's sort of like a square. If you click on that, the chat box should open, and you're welcome to type your questions into the chat box if you've got any. Or equally, you're welcome to use the raise hand function, which is on the same banner as the chat box function would be found. And you just click on it. It's like a little hand that's like this. You click on the hand, and then I can unmute your microphone, and you can always ask your question via voice if you prefer that over typing. But it is the Zoom webinar platform that we're using for the class. And so you won't be able to unmute your microphone unless you use the raise hand function. Okay, all right, well, welcome. I see a few more people joining us. Good morning, thanks for coming along. Today is week 5 of 8. I was gonna say 6, but no, not of 6, of 8. And we'll get started. So I'm gonna move back to my chair. And as I had mentioned, the class, we start in a seated position, we move to a standing position, and then we come back down to a seated position. So ideally, the chair that you've got today would have no armrest, just so that way we can, move around and not accidentally hit our arms on anything. But of course, if you've only got a chair with armrest, that's okay as well. But the main thing is the chair should be pretty sturdy, so no wheels, right? So don't use something like this. No wheels on the chair, ideally. You want something without wheels, so that way the chair is not going to move around on you. Okay, so we're gonna start seated. Now, stay where you are. I'm gonna turn sideways for a second. Throughout our class today, whenever we're sitting down in our chairs, we always wanna make sure we're sitting nice and tall at the front of our chair. So that way we have lots of room to move our hips and our arms and our trunks. Whereas if you're sitting like this, if you're sitting all the way back in the chair and you're leaning into the chair, it's very difficult to move because you're not very activated in your trunk and you're so far back in the chair that your hips don't really have any room to kind of move. And so it's really important that whenever we are sitting, we are using our trunk muscles. We're bringing ourselves up over our sitting bones, and we're sitting at the front of the seat. So we do have lots of room to move our hips and arms and legs and all sorts of things like that. So the only time we're ever going to be sitting back in the chair and slouching is for one of the back and chest stretches that we do in the class, but I will tell you when we get to them, okay? So unless I tell you to slouch, we assume we're sitting upright at the fronts of our chair, okay? All right, let me face you again. Okay, so check in with your posture in the chair. Are you sitting forward in the chair? Hopefully you are. You're sitting nice and tall, nice and upright. We're going to start today by floating those arms up in front of us, palms facing together like so. And then from here, we're going to open one of our arms around to the back, and you're twisting your back. You're looking at the back arm here, and then you're coming forward again. Same to the other side. You're opening the arm back. You're really opening those fingers, taking your gaze to the back wall, and you come forward again. Hopefully you've got more room where you are than I do. My right arm keeps touching the closet here as I turn around, but ignore that. Pretend my arm is not touching the wall, and I've got lots of room to really swing around and rotate through the trunk here. Hopefully you're sitting up nice and tall as we're doing this, letting your gaze follow where your arm is going. Really feel that you're twisting in your trunk here. You're rotating in your trunk. I'm going to move forward a tiny bit because I keep hitting that wall. Rotating through the trunk, nice and tall. 2 more. See if you can open wider each time. And we're going to drop the arms for a second. We're going to lace the fingers together, and we're going to reach up overhead. I'm going to move back now. Reach up overhead, stretching as far as you can. Really feel that your arms are pulled upward. So you feel a stretch sort of in your armpits down into the side of your trunk. Big stretch. And then we're going to let one arm drop. Then you're going to let your body tip to one side and then back up. Big stretch up and overhead as far as you can. And then the other arm dropping down to the side, coming back up. And we repeat, big stretch. And then over to the side. Don't be afraid to let your head fall over to one side as well as we're doing this opening position to the side. Big stretch. And open. Big stretch up overhead. And open. Leaning to the side each time. Big stretch up overhead and open. One more. Big stretch up overhead and open. And let the arms come down. Circle the wrists as your arms open down to the side. Okay, I'm going to turn sideways for a second. You stay where you are. So we're now going into our chest and back stretch, which is what I mentioned earlier about us slouching, us choosing to slouch. We're going to shuffle our bottom back into the seat. And then you're going to lean into the backrest of the chair like so. Okay, from here, we're going to bring those arms up behind our head. Now we want to be careful here that our elbows are pointing out to the side and not forward. So you don't want to be like this. You want to open those elbows out to the side. So you're stretching the chest already. And then we're going to lean up and over the back of the chair, being mindful not to actually tip the chair back. I don't want anyone falling. But we're leaning up and over the backrest of the chair, and you should feel a chest stretch and a back stretch, an upper back stretch, that is. And just hold it here for a few seconds, breathing. And then you come back up, drop the arms for a second. And then we're going to do that again. Same thing. You're slouching in your chair. Bring the arms up around behind your ears, behind your head. Make sure the elbows are opened out to the side, not pointing forward, but open out to the side. And then we're going to stretch up and over the backrest of the chair. Hopefully feeling a stretch in the chest and the upper back. Being careful not to tip yourself over the chair. We don't want anyone falling. Breathing. And we come back up, relax again. One last time, same thing. We're slouching in our chair. We're bringing the arms up behind the ears, open the elbows out to the side, and we're gonna lean up and over the backrest of the chair to stretch our chest and our upper back. This time, we're gonna take this a bit further. Keep yourself in this position. We're just gonna move those arms out. We're gonna open those arms out to the side like so to deepen that chest stretch a little bit more for 3, 2, 1. And coming back up, using our tummy muscles, sitting upright, and then we're moving to the front of our chair again. I'm gonna turn around to face you. We're gonna place those hands onto our hips here, just so they're out of the way, or you can hold onto the chair too if you like, whatever works for you. But we're sitting nice and tall at the front of our chairs. And what we're gonna do here is we're gonna go for an ankle movement. So we're going to lift those heels up as high as we can, keeping the toes on the floor, then lower. Same thing in reverse. Lift those toes up as high as you can, but keeping the heels on the floor, and relax. Again, heels up, let me move back. Heels up and lower, toes up and lower, heels up, lower, toes up and lower. Good, keep going, sitting nice and tall. So as we're doing this movement here, you want to try to avoid this kind of trunk movement as you're moving the ankles. I'm sure no one's actually doing it like that, but you want to try to imagine you've got a book balancing on your head and you're staying nice and still like a statue. You're nice and tall, nice and sturdy. The only things that are moving is just the feet, right? So we're not trying to move our spine in any way or slouch or drop our arm or drop our hip in any way. We just want the ankles moving, everything else staying completely still. So don't let the knees collapse in or move out. You want to keep them parallel. Good, keep going. Nice and tall through the spine. Now we're gonna keep the ankle movement going, but this time we're gonna go opposite direction. So one foot is gonna have the heel up, the other foot is gonna have the toes up. And then we switch, heels up, toes up. Switch, heels up, toes up. And we're gonna keep this going, still sitting up nice and tall. Imagine that book balancing on your head, so we don't wanna be doing this kind of movement as we're moving the ankles. Good, nicely done. See if you can make the range a little bit bigger each time. Really warm up your feet. Nicely done. A few more. And we'll stop there for a second. Now we're going to move on to our knees and our hips. We're going to straighten one leg up in front of us so that you're showing me the bottom of your heel, and then you're gonna bring it back down. Same with the other leg. Straighten the legs, you're showing me the bottom of your heel, then you're putting the foot back down. Keep going. I'm gonna turn sideways for a second. So as I'm doing this movement, you can probably see that my shins are coming up to meet the level of my knee and my thigh. So I'm bringing the shin up to meet the line of my thigh, but my thigh itself is not moving. So what I don't want to see is this. I don't want to see this drop, drop. I don't want to see this dropping motion. We want to try to keep ourselves upright. Everything from your knee to your hip stays exactly still. It's just the shin coming up to meet that line. So you should feel it more into the thigh muscle when you do it this way. And you're still thinking about balancing that imaginary book on top of your head. So you're still nice and tall, nice and still and sturdy. So we're not going to be leaning back every time the leg comes up or slouching down every time the leg comes up. We want to keep ourselves upright. And it's almost like we're a statue. The only thing moving is just the knee and the shin, right? So the shin is coming up to meet the thigh. That's the only thing that's moving here. Keep going. Keep going. I'm going to turn back to face you. Keep going with the legs. Okay, this time, when you straighten your leg, you're going to keep it there and you're going to draw a gigantic circle with that leg. Maybe not gigantic, but as big as you can without the other leg moving and your body kind of sliding out of place. You're drawing 5 circles in one direction. And then you're going to go 5 circles in the other direction. You're still imagining that book on top of your head. So we're not going to be dipping down with our body like that. Want to be drawing the circle. We're keeping everything as still as possible, even the opposite knee still if you can. So you want to avoid this kind of movement. I'm sure no one's doing it like that, but you want to try to keep the opposite knee nice and still as well as you're drawing the circle, and you're keeping the knee straight, the knee of the leg that's drawing the circle. You're keeping that knee as straight as you can. So we don't want to see this, or the knee is kind of coming up. We want to keep the leg straight. It's the entire leg drawing the circle. Keep going. We're going to keep alternating the legs here. The hardest part is probably keeping your opposite knee still, but we're going to try our best. Keep it as still as you can. We want to try to avoid this kind of movement. Sitting up nice and tall still. As I'm talking here, I'm definitely not counting my circles, but you want to do 5 in each direction. So if you're watching the playback of this recording and you're counting my circles, I apologize if it's actually less or more than that. But keep going, nice and tall. Let's do one more. You know, this one's a little bit tough. Keep the opposite knee still if you can, nice and tall through the trunk. Imagine that book balancing on the head. And rest for a second. Just checking with your posture again. Are we like this, or are we sitting upright? Now we're going to drop the arms down by the side. So just like what we did before with straightening the leg in front of us, we're going to do that again, but this time you're adding in a punch. So bring your arms up into a guard position. We're going to bring one leg up and we're going to punch forward with the opposite arm like so. So we're not doing a very aggressive movement. We're just kind of moving through the ranges of our body here. So we're not going for a kick or a punch necessarily, but we're kind of stretching forward, working the opposition of the arm and leg here. And meanwhile, keep going. If I turn sideways for a second, as we're doing this, the main goal here is you're trying to keep your trunk upright. So we're not doing a traditional boxing move. We're actually using our trunk to throw the punches. We're trying to dissociate the arm and leg movement to the trunk movement. So we're trying to work on trunk stability here more than anything. So you're sitting upright, you're imagining that book balancing on your head, and you're trying to keep your trunk completely still, even though your arms and legs are moving. So you don't want to be leaning back or falling forward as we're doing this, or twisting too much. See if you can keep your body as rigid as possible. It's almost like we're one of those wooden puppets where you pull on the strings and the arms and legs kind of come up. Is that idea where your arms and legs kind of go up, but the rest of the body stays still? Working on trunk stability here. Good, keep going. Of course, if I'm going a little too fast, please feel free to slow it down. It doesn't have to be fast. We're just working on the control of your trunk here. Let's do a few more here. Try to keep that body nice and still, nice and controlled, so we're not kind of wiggling around. And let's rest there for a second. I'm going to turn sideways again. We're going to move into our shoulder blade strengthening exercise. We're stretching and strengthening our back muscles. So what we're going to do here is we're sitting up nice and tall, just like we were a moment ago, hopefully. And we're going to hinge forward at the hips, just a little bit, not a lot. So we don't want to be like this. We just want to hinge forward a little bit, just so we're not completely upright, just forward a little bit. We're going to bring those arms like this in front of you. So it's kind of like a 90-degree angle. So if I was upright, the arms would be pointing forward, but you're hinging forward at the hips a little bit. From here, I'm going to squeeze my shoulder blades together like there's a pencil in between them. And I'm going to pull those elbows wide out to the side, almost like I'm pulling them behind me. Squeeze the shoulder blades together and then release them forward again. Let me turn this way low. You can see. So here, right here, imagine there is a pencil there, and I'm squeezing my shoulder blades. I'm pulling those elbows up. My elbows are not down here, they're up, okay? I'm pulling the elbows up behind me, squeezing the shoulder blades together like I'm trying to elbow somebody behind me. And then I release and bring them forward again. Same thing. I'm pulling those elbows together, squeezing the shoulder blades together, elbows wide and forward. Pulling the elbows and forward. Keep going. I'm going to turn to face you. I'm going to try different angles so you can see. And forward. So make sure the elbows are not down here. Keep them wide, wide. Squeezing them behind you and forward. Squeezing them behind you and forward. Keep going. Squeeze and forward. And just make sure your shoulders are not coming up here. Shoulders away from the ears if you can. Good. Keep going. I'm turning sideways. Pulling the shoulders back. Good. Let's do 2 more. Make sure you're still on an incline. Elbows nice and wide. Squeezing the elbows back behind you. And rest, shake out those arms for a second. Okay. Let's move now into a standing position. So that means we are going to now practice our sit to stand. So if you're new today, I'll explain it from the beginning. When we do our sit to stand, we're working on a weight shift. We're working on the ability to keep our center of gravity over our base of support, in this case, our feet, at all times, so we don't fall over. So it's really important when we do our sit to stand, we start at the front of our chair in order to bring our weight forward to stand. Because if we're like this, if we're at the back of our chairs or we're leaning back and then we're trying to stand, what's going to happen is our weight is too far back already. We're going to end up trying to lift our bottom up with our arms, but all of our weight is back here. And then we'll have to pull in order to stand up, which isn't really efficient. So it's really important that we sit forward in our chairs, feet flat on the floor, and we're bringing our body forward, almost like someone pulling our shirt forward, someone pulling our body forward over our base of support, in this case, our feet. And then we push the floor away from us, squeeze the butt cheeks together to keep our center of gravity on top of our base of support. And then we're going to sit down again, exactly the same way. We bend at the trunk, at the hips, chest forward, but I'm keeping, so even in this position, I'm keeping my center of gravity on top of my base of support. So hence why I'm not falling back into the chair. And then I sit upright again. So it's really important that we're not keeping our weight back in the chair and then struggling to bring our weight forward to then stand up, okay? So we need to keep our weight on top of our base of support. And we're gonna do this as slow as we can so we can really work on the control. And so we're not doing this 1, 2, 3, using momentum to stand up. And hopefully we are also not pushing the back of our legs into the chair to stay balanced to push us forward. So join me here if you haven't already. We're gonna practice our sit to stand. So it's really important that you practice keeping your center of gravity on top of your base of support the entire time. As you're standing up and as you're sitting back down, you're keeping your center of gravity on top of your base of support so you stay balanced. And in a basic way of explaining, that's sort of what balance is really, is as we're moving around our environment, we're always trying to keep our center of gravity on top of our base of support in order for us to not fall over. And of course, balance is more complicated than that, but we're sort of using this way of thinking of why we're trying to get the center of gravity over the base of support in order to help us balance. It's like if you were to balance a ruler on top of an open palm, right? You're always doing this because you're trying to keep your hand right underneath the ruler so that it doesn't fall over sideways. It's exactly the same thing. You're trying to keep your base of support underneath your center of gravity, or your center of gravity on top of your base of support, in order for you to stay balanced. Excuse me. Now, if you have been doing this for a couple of weeks, you've been here since the beginning, this might be getting a little bit boring for you. So if that's you, I would like to challenge you by bringing one leg forward. So we're biasing the back leg. So the leg that's forward, it's there for balance. We're not really using it. And then you're doing the same thing. bring your center of gravity over the base of support, back leg, and then you're standing up. And that front leg could either be off the floor or it could be on the floor, whatever works for you. And then you're doing the same thing when you're sitting back down, trying to keep the center of gravity on top of the base of support. Same thing when you stand up, trying to keep the center of gravity on top of the base of support. Of course, you don't have to have that leg off the floor. You can, if you want to do a single leg sit to stand, you're welcome to, but you can also have that leg on the floor. If you're doing the biased version, do 3 on one side, switch to 3 on the other side, but it's entirely up to you if you want to do that or not. You don't have to. By all means, you're welcome to keep doing the one with both legs on the floor. I think we have a couple of new people today, so I will stick to the 2 legs on the floor for those who are new and want to work on this sit to stand technique. So keep going in your own time. It doesn't have to match what I'm doing, so keep going in your own time. And we're just going to make sure we really concentrate on the technique of keeping our center of gravity over our base of support at all times. I don't want to see anyone go and then fall forward. And I also don't want to see anybody with the weight all the way back here and then trying to walk your weight forward. I would rather you, from the beginning, already bring your center of gravity forward over your base of support. And then as you stand, you keep maintaining your center of gravity over your base of support. And of course, the slower the better, because the more difficult it's going to be. Let's do 3 more. In your own time, 3 more. I feel like I definitely talk a little too much during these classes. Maybe it's over-explaining, I don't know, but I'm hoping one of those analogies will stick. Nicely done, everyone. On the last sit to stand, you're going to stay standing. Good. So on your last sit to stand, make sure you stay standing. And I'm going to move my chair forward now. So when we're doing the standing portion of the class, I would encourage you to hold on to something for support. If you find that you might be having some problems with balance, please do hold on to something. I don't want anyone to fall in this class. But of course, if you don't need the chair, don't use it. That's fine as well. But if you are a little bit wobbly today or you're not feeling quite 100%, please do hold on to something. Okay, so to continue on with what we were talking about earlier with the weight shift forward in order to stand up, or we're bringing our center of gravity over our base of support, we're going to do that again, but this time in the form of a squat. So a squat looks like this. I'm bending my knees, sticking my hips back, always squeeze my butt cheek forward in order to stand upright. So we're going to use the squat movement to practice this kind of weight shift. So as we squat down, we're shifting our weight ever so slightly to the back of our feet, to the heels of our feet. And then as we stand up, we're shifting our weight forward ever so slightly back to the middle of the feet. So try the squat movement with me here, nice and slow, and really see if you can feel what I'm talking about with the weight shift. So as we squat down, we're shifting our weight back to the heels of our feet. And then as we stand up, we're shifting our weight back to the middle of the feet. Very subtle. We're not actually, swinging ourselves back and forward, but I just want you to concentrate on this movement. So when we do squats, the movement should be coming from the hips. So squats aren't like this. If we're just bending the knees, it's not a squat. It's sort of more like a plie in ballet, if you will, but that's not the type of exercise we're doing. So we're not just bending our knees like this, but we're keeping our knees relatively still in terms of where they are in space. We're sticking our bottom back, so it's more of a hip movement, and then we're squeezing our butt cheeks together to stand up. So it's a hip movement. We're sticking our hip back, sticking our hip forward, rather than the knee is kind of coming forward, if that makes sense. So try it. Join me here. As we squat down, we're bringing the weight back towards our heels, and then as we stand up, we're bringing the weight forward to the middle of our feet. Again, we squat down, weight is back in the heels, and then we move the weight to the middle of the feet. Squat down, weight is going to the heels, and then we stand up and move the weight to the middle. So keep going in your own time. And then when you're ready, we're going to add in a rise when we stand up. So when you're ready, we're moving our weight to the heels, move the weight to the middle of the feet, then we move the weight even further forward to the front of our feet, to the balls of our feet, and then we lower down. And again, we squat down, weight shift to our heels, we stand up, weight shift to the middle of the feet, and we weight shift forward to rise and lower. So very slow, well, it's not very slow, but slow-ish movements that we're doing here. So we're not just popping up as quick as we can. We're slowing it down so we can really feel the weight shift. We're still keeping our center of gravity balanced on top of our base of support at all times, but we're choosing to shift our weight. We're choosing to shift our weight in a controlled manner. Keep going. Hips back, hips forward, rise and lower. Hips back, hips forward, and then push the weight forward. Good. This time, when we go down into the squat, we're gonna pulse here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Standing back up, squeeze the butt cheeks together to stand up tall, bring our weight forward, rise and lower. And again, we stick our hips back into the squat. In this squat, we pulse for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Squeeze the butt cheeks together to stand, and we rise. One more. Squat back, pulsing for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Standing up tall, rise and lower and shake out those legs for a second. Okay, let's keep going with our hip strengthening exercises. So our next one, we're still holding on to a chair in front of us. You don't have to, but if you need to, please hold on. We're going to lean forward ever so slightly into the chair. So we're not like this, but we're leaning forward ever so slightly so we can bring one of our legs back like this, okay? So the supporting knee, you can bend this ever so slightly if you feel like the back of the thigh is quite tight. We're going to keep this leg back, and we're going to lift it up off the floor, keeping that knee straight if you can. And then you're going to tap the toe onto the floor, and then it's going to float back up. So we're tapping the toe on the floor, and it's going back up. And as we do this kind of pulsing movement, the movement should be coming from your bottom muscle. So you're squeezing the butt cheek here in order to lift that leg up. But this movement is very different to this, right? I'm not kicking the leg up. I'm sure no one's doing it like that. I'm exaggerating, but you want to try to keep the trunk completely still, the hips completely still. So it's like the analogy of being like a statue, like we mentioned, a statue with only a single moving part. So your entire body is completely still. The only thing that's moving is this leg. That's it. But we're not going to be turning the hip or kicking the leg and bring the back up. We're keeping the body entirely still. The only thing that's moving is just that leg, and a toe touches the ground barely and then goes back up. So we don't want to be stepping on the leg or have the leg come all the way down. We have the leg back as a starting place, and this is where it starts and ends. Tap, back up, tap, back up. And as you're doing this, your body is completely still. I don't want to see if you want to do this or this. We're keeping the body entirely still. So just that leg moving, everything else completely still. Hence why we're leaning forward, because if you're upright like this, it's harder. You'll feel like you want to kind of crunch through the back. And when you're ready, as you're doing this kind of pulsing movement, I want you to take that leg and try to write your name in the air. See if you can write your name. in the air with that leg without the hip turning or without the back crunching. So you're thinking about what we mentioned a moment ago with the statue. Your body is a statue. The only thing that's moving is just that leg. And that leg is going to be writing your name in the air without any other parts of the body moving. So really important, we're not stepping down the leg every time, like you're keeping the leg up. None of this. You're keeping the body still, just the leg moving, writing your name. So if I were to cover that leg with a big blanket and I only saw the rest of your body without the leg, it shouldn't look like you're moving at all, okay? Keep going. Hopefully your chair's sturdy, not like mine, it's a bit wobbly here. Nice and controlled. And let's shake it out for a second. And we'll go on to the other leg. Same thing, standing tall. We're gonna lean forward a little bit so that you're leaning into the chair, but we're not like this. We're just hinging forward a tiny bit on an incline. Our other leg is gonna go back behind us. Remember, our body is a statue. The only thing that's moving is that leg. We're just gonna start with the pulsing up, tapping down, up, tapping down, squeezing that hip muscle at the back here in order to help you move that leg. So just like before, we're like a statue. We're gonna not do this. We're not moving our body with the leg or crunching through the back, and we're not turning the hip either. We're keeping it directly behind us, but everything is still except for that leg. That leg is the only thing that's moving. The back, the trunk, the shoulders, the other leg not moving. Just the one leg behind us that's moving, and it's tapping the toes down, coming back up, tapping the toes down, and coming back up. Nicely done. And then when you're ready, we're gonna start drawing our name, writing our name in the air with that one leg without the rest of the body doing that. We're keeping everything still except for that leg that's going to be writing your name. So if I were to cover up that moving leg with a big blanket and I only saw the rest of your body, it shouldn't look like you're moving at all. No harder than it sounds. Keep going. Try to keep that body as still as possible, as controlled as possible. Just that leg moving. And let's rest. Let's shake out the legs. Give yourself a little bit of a break. Okay. Switching legs again. This time, you've got the chair to the side. We're gonna lean over into the chair a bit. So I'm standing, but I'm leaning over into the chair. And I'm gonna bring my leg out to the side. So just like before, exactly the same thing, but this time, we're lifting the leg out to the side, tapping it down. Lift it out to the side, tap it down. Really important that you can see my knee and my toes are facing forward. So I'm not turning I'm not doing this, right? I'm not turning the leg. My toes, can you see my toes here? They're still pointing forward. So it's almost like I'm lifting the outside of my foot. I'm lifting the outside of my foot up like that. So I'm not turning the leg. Keeping my knee facing forward, I'm leaning a little bit into the chair, and that leg is going to pulse up, tap the toes down barely, and then it goes back up again. So just like before, I'm gonna avoid this kind of throwing the leg up using my back. I'm sure no one's doing it like that, but you want to dissociate the movement from the rest of your body. So it's just the leg. So we're really using the muscles here to lift that leg, but we're not compensating by trying to lift the trunk. So make sure you're leaning over, leg out to the side. The toes and knees are pointing forward, and you're just lifting that leg, tapping it down, lifting that leg, tapping it down without any other part of the body moving. So you want to avoid this or this kind of twisting. You want to keep yourself completely still. So just like before, like a statue. If you need to, you can shake out the leg or shake out the supporting leg if you feel it on the supporting leg. But when you're ready, I want you to take that leg and same as before, you're going to write your name without the body doing this. You're keeping yourself completely still and it's just the leg that's writing your name. And you're trying to keep the rest of the body here completely still if you can. So it's like if I covered your moving leg with a big blanket, it shouldn't look like you're moving at all. So the rest of your body should look like it's not moving at all. This one might be a little bit harder to stay still because you're sideways. Keep the toes pointing forward if you can. And let's rest there. Shake up those legs. Let's try the other side. Standing nice and tall again. We're going to lean over to the side a little bit so you can free up your legs. Make sure the toes and knees are pointing forward. So you want to make sure we're not doing this. Right? You want to keep the toe and the knee pointing forward. The entire body is still like a statue, just this leg lifting up, tapping down, lifting up, tapping down. So just the leg moving. We're avoiding this kind of pulling and kicking with the body here. Just the leg moving. Make sure you're leaning over. Do we hate this one yet? Knees and toes pointing forward. So the foot barely taps down and it goes up. Barely taps down and it goes up. And then when you're ready, you're going to take that leg and you're going to start writing your name in the air with control, avoiding this. You don't want the entire body to go with that leg. You want to dissociate the movement so the body is still, just the leg moving, trying not to get the rest of the body involved if you can. So do it nice and slow if this is too hard for you. And the movement can be slower with the leg if you need it to be in order for the entire body not to move. You're learning control here, working on the muscle control. Try to keep the rest of your body still, so just coming from the hip. Nicely done, everybody. Don't hold your breath, keep breathing. Good. And let's rest there. Shake out those legs. Nicely done. Okay, I'm gonna move my chair out of the way for a second. But I do still want you to hold on if you need to at home. I'm just moving the chair out of the way so you can see me. We're gonna go into our lunges that we did last time. So we're gonna bring our leg forward and then we're gonna lunge down, almost like we're about to touch our back knee to the floor. Please hold on if you need to, okay? So almost like I'm about to tap my back knee onto the floor, but not quite. And then I'm pushing back. And that same leg that went forward a second ago is gonna go backwards into a lunge. So it's like my back knee is about to touch the floor, but not quite. And then I come back up. Same leg going forward. Big push, back to the middle. Same leg going backwards. Big push to the middle. Now, if you can't do a lunge, that's okay. Even if it's like a step like this, back to the middle, absolutely fine. The whole point here is I want you to try to transfer your weight forward, middle, back, middle, while trying to keep your center of gravity on top of your base of support. So your base of support is moving, right? Because your feet are moving, your base of support is moving, but you're trying to keep your center of gravity on top of your base of support the entire time you're doing this. So even if you're stepping and you're not lunging, that's okay. Just try to keep your center of gravity on top of your base of support the entire time. And you're thinking about your trunk like an elevator. So you can only go up and down, but not forward and backwards. So I don't want to see anyone do this, but you want to try to keep your trunk upright as much as you can. Hold on if you need. And of course, please feel free to slow it down if this is too fast. But I just wanted to practice this. So join me here if you haven't already. I just wanted to practice this feeling of the base of support moving, but you choosing to keep your center of gravity on top of your base of support the entire time. We're only doing one leg for now. Trying to get your center of gravity on top of your base of support. So remember, if you can't do a lunge, that's okay. Do a step, but make sure when you're stepping, it's not like this, right? Because this is a little too small. You're not going to feel any of that weight shift. You can step out enough that your body, your center of gravity is actually needing to move to stay on top of your base of support. So if it's not a lunge, then a step is okay, but you have to step out enough for the body to actually have to move. Nicely done, everybody. Okay, we're gonna add one layer of complexity. If you choose, you don't have to, you can stay with the lunging. So what we're gonna do now, if you choose to, when we lunge forward or step forward, we're gonna do 3 pulses. 1, 2, 3. Then we push our center of gravity back to the middle. Then we go back. 1, 2, 3. Back to the middle. So you do 3 pulses every time you do your lunges. You don't have to, you can do it without the pulses if you find it's already a little bit difficult for you to try to keep your center of gravity on top of your base of support. Feel free to do it without the pulses. But if you do want to challenge yourself, you're welcome to add the 3 pulses. Make sure when you're doing the pulses, your body is upright like an elevator. So we don't want to be like this. We want to keep our body upright during those 3 pulses. And then we go back. Nicely done. You're welcome to take that leg off the floor if you can in the middle. You don't have to. You can definitely place that foot back down. But if you want to, you're welcome to lift that foot up to balance. So you're really trying to challenge yourself to keep your center of gravity on top of your moving base of support. And let's switch legs. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to switch to the other side. Same thing. Other leg forward. Just start with the normal lunging, coming back, lunging, coming back. Okay, let's just start with that. The normal lunges. Normal lunges. So just like before, your body's like an elevator. You can only go up and down, not forwards, but only up and down. And if you're not doing the lunging, you're just stepping, that's okay too. But try to keep your body over your base of support at all times so you can keep that balance. So even if you're just stepping forward and you can't lunge, that's okay. But keep your base of support underneath that center of gravity. And your body is still upright. We want to avoid this as we're moving. And of course, just like before, the leg can either lift off in the middle or touch down, whatever works for you. But you have to make sure you step out enough to actually get that weight transfer going. And then when you're ready, let's add in the 3 pulses for each of those lunges. 3 pulses. When you're doing the pulses, make sure your body is still upright like an elevator. Nicely done, everybody. You don't have to add the pulses if you don't want to. And you definitely don't have to do it at the same speed I'm doing either. You're welcome to slow it down if it's too difficult for you to keep your center of gravity on top of your base of support if you're going too fast. Really feel that weight shift forward and then back. Nicely done. Let's do a few more. Make sure you're holding on, okay, if you need to. I haven't got a chair in the picture here because if I do, you probably won't be able to see me very well. Okay, let's stop there, shake out the legs. Okay,
Let's do one final exercise before we stretch it out. We're gonna use a wall, okay? So hopefully you have a blank wall that doesn't have any doorknobs or any picture frames sticking out, because I don't want you to hurt yourself. You're gonna stand facing the wall. So you want to stand with your chest completely on the wall, and your arms need to be in this kind of W shape. Hopefully you can see me. Okay, from here, same as before. Do you remember that exercise we did earlier like this? So same thing. We're bringing our chest onto the wall and our arms are up like this. We're gonna squeeze our shoulder blades together, and you're gonna bring those arms up off the wall and then lower them down. If you can't take them off the wall too far, that's okay. Just squeeze your shoulder blades together and release. Squeeze your shoulder blades together and release. But the objective is you're trying to take your arms off the wall by squeezing the shoulder blades together. So from the side, if I come down a little bit, imagine I'm leaning into a wall, okay? So pretend I'm standing and my chest and my head and the front of my arms are on the wall. I'm gonna squeeze my shoulder blades together to lift the arms off the wall. And ideally, you don't wanna just lift your elbow. You want your elbow and your hand to be equally off the wall, and you relax into the wall again. And again, squeeze the shoulder blades together to pull the arms off the wall, and then back against the. So you want your front of the body to be against the wall. Squeeze the shoulder blades to bring the arms off the wall. Squeeze the shoulder blades to bring the arms off the wall. Good, keep going. I'm gonna turn sideways again so you can see. Pretend I'm on the wall, keep going. Squeeze. Squeezing the shoulder blades together, elbows up high, hopefully not down here. A little higher if you can. 2 more. 1 more. And shake out those arms. Nicely done. Okay. Let's finish with a bit of a stretch. 1 leg forward, 1 leg back. You're straightening straightening the back leg, bending the front leg, and you're really trying to reach that back heel to the floor. So you should feel a stretch in the back calf here. If you don't, separate the legs a little bit more, really reach that back heel to the floor and push that back knee straight. Make sure you're breathing. Hold it here for a few breaths. Nicely done. And let's switch to the other leg. The front knee is bent, the back knee is straight. You're reaching that heel to the floor and you're pushing that knee back. You're pushing that knee straight. You should feel it in the back half. Holding for a few breaths. And coming back up, let's do a thigh stretch. You've got 2 options here. Number 1, if you can hold on to your foot and pull it back to your bottom, making sure your knees are in one line. You don't want the knee forward or to the side. You want the knee in one line. And you're pushing the hips forward, pulling that foot to your bottom, and you should feel a stretch in the front thigh and the hip muscle here. But if that's too hard and you can't hold on to your leg, I would suggest for you to grab a chair or a stool, whatever you've got, and you place that foot onto the chair and your knees are still in line and you're still pushing your bottom forward, and you'll feel that same stretch. The higher the chair, the more you'll feel that stretch. Just make sure the knees are in one line, whether you're holding on with your hand or you're placing that foot back behind you. Breathing. And release. Let's do the same thing on the other side. So remember, you can either hold the foot, pull it to your bottom, or place it on the chair behind you. Just make sure your knees are in one line. So I don't want to see the knees forward like that. You want the knees in one line, and then you're pushing your hips forward to feel the stretch, regardless of whether you're using the chair behind you or the hand to physically pull the foot up. And release. Let's have a sit down now. So just like before, we're not going to crash land into the chair. So remember, when we practice our sit to stand, we're going to control our descent. Sticking our bottom back, chest forward. You're keeping your weight in the middle of your center of gravity, and you're slowly sitting down as quietly as you can. Hopefully you're at the front of your chair. If not, please move forward. We're going to do a hamstring stretch. So we're going to straighten one leg out in front of us, and then you're going to sit nice and tall as you can. Keep the spine as straight as possible. And you're going to hinge forward at the hips. Reach those arms down towards the shin, the ankle, whatever you can reach, and you should feel a stretch at the back of the thigh here. And coming back up, let's switch the legs. Other side, knees straight, sitting tall, hinging forward at the hips. Reach those fingertips down as far as you can. You should feel a stretch in the back thigh of that straightened leg. Make sure you're breathing. Coming back up. Okay. Let's do a bum stretch since we did so much work on the back hips. We're going to bring one leg up over the other leg. So you're hiking the foot up. Let me turn this so you can see. You're bringing the foot up on one side, and you're going to use your hands. You're pushing that knee down, sitting tall, hinge forward at your hips, and you should feel it in the bottom muscle there. If this is too difficult for you and you can't hike your leg up, don't worry. You can straighten one leg, and then with the other leg, you can slide it up over your knee if you can, and just hold it here. Same thing. So whether that supporting leg is bent or straight, same thing. Just push that knee down if you can and hinge forward if you need a deeper stretch. And release. Same thing on the other side. Bring the foot up, push that knee down, hinge forward at the hips. And bring the leg down. Last one. I'm going to take our hand, hold on to the opposite knee. The other hand's going to wrap around the back of the chair, hold on to the chair, sit tall, pull yourself around into a rotational stretch such that you're looking at the back wall. Try to keep yourself as tall as possible if you can. And release. Other side, take your hand, hold on to the opposite knee. Then the other hand's going to wrap around the back of the chair, sit tall, and then you're going to twist yourself around in the chair such that you're looking at the back wall. So really think about your spine like a corkscrew here. You're kind of rotating on the spot. And release, and you are done. Thank you everybody for joining us for week 5 of the Stretch and Strengthen exercise series. I hope you had some fun and I hope it was enjoyable. Now, if you were new today and if there were anything that we did today that you wanted to revisit, you can absolutely do so on our YouTube channel, which this recording will go on to by this time next week. So if you want to check back on the YouTube channel, you're welcome to do so. But other than that, I will see you all next week, same time, same place for week 6. And we've only got 3 sessions left. It's going by really quick. Make sure if you are interested in signing up for other exercise classes, you look on our website and you sign up for them. We do have in March, we've got the Move and Groove to the Music coming up, which is a new edition on Thursdays at 2:30. And then we are going to add in a martial arts fundamental class again, just like last year. So look forward to that in March, and I will see you next week. Thank you, everybody.